Yo, guys, Urb'n Barz brings you the best UK reactions to rap, hip hop, and urban music from all around the world. And tonight, guys, we are back with our man JBP, Jordan B. Peterson. And guys, he's got something he wants to say. So, our man JBP is checking out the results features of a person with a high IQ. And to be honest with you guys, I have no idea what that actually means. Really? The results? Oh, maybe it's the results features of a person with a high IQ by Jordan Peterson. I don't know. Guys, let's not digress. Let's get into this.
In this video, Dr. Jordan Peterson explains what are the results of having a high IQ and how to know if you have a high IQ.
So an IQ is an intelligence quotient, and it's basically something that grades you against your peers to see sort of, where your intelligence sits. And I'm certain when I remember back, like I used to like rhyme and do stuff about this years ago, something goes like borderline, normal, bright, superior, something like that, guys. But let's check this out and let's see if we can shave a few points, or rather add a few points to our intelligence quotient.
An IQ is a very good predictor of health. It's a predictor of longevity. It's a predictor of resistance to post-traumatic stress disorder. It's a predictor of, obviously, occupational status. It's a predictor of educational success. It's a predictor of income. It's a very powerful predictor. And here's another way of conceptualizing its effect. So imagine that you could choose how you were going to be when you were born. This is in North America because it's going to vary by society, at least to some degree. You get to be born into a family that's at the 95th percentile for wealth, or you get to be born at the 95th percentile for intelligence.
Oh.
Who's better off at the age of 40?
That's interesting. So do you want to be in the upper echelons of wealth or the upper echelons of intelligence? Which one would you choose? So now our man JBP is going to tell us. What would you choose at by the age of 40?
And the answer is the person who picks being born with an IQ in the 95th percentile at birth. It's a more powerful predictor of long-term life outcome than familial wealth.
Oh, so rather than familial wealth, if you want to have a long and glorious life, you should rather choose the area of the higher intelligence quotients, the higher IQ. I wonder why that is. So if JBP lets us into the secret of exactly why, but he says the predictors of the higher IQ is on health, longevity, resistance to post-traumatic stress disorder. I did not even know that. And potentially the types of jobs and the spheres you'll go into and your educational success. And even it will reflect with your income. So if you really want, so I'm thinking if you really had that choice with the higher income, the higher IQ, don't they fit into that subset anyway? Of high income, high IQ? I don't know. That's what I was thinking. There's, they're not totally, but they are part. You know what I'm saying, guys? Let's check this out.
So, and it shows up everywhere. Like one of the things we did recently was look at disgust sensitivity. We're going to talk a little bit about that when we talk about conscientiousness, because orderly people seem to be more sensitive to disgust than disorderly people. That seems to be why they're orderly. But the higher you are in IQ, the less disgust sensitive you are.
Oh.
Now, we don't know exactly why that is. Maybe it's because, maybe you could make the inference that IQ is related in some way to the physiological integrity of the cortex, rather than the limbic system, which, is the source of, say, emotions and motivations. And the more powerful it is, the more inhibitory capacity it has over the more fundamental motivations and emotions. You could make that case. The problem is that intelligent people don't necessarily seem to be any less impulsive. So And you can have a pretty vicious personality disorder that's characterized by extremely disorganized behavior and a complete inability to put long-term plans into operation and still have a high IQ. So one of the things we really can't figure out, it's just a hell of a thing to try to figure out, is like the relationship between IQ and industriousness is zero.
So the relationship between IQ and being industrious, there is no relationship.
And that just makes no sense to me, because most of the brain models are predicated on the idea that your ability to engage in long-term planning is a factor that's associated with intelligence. But then industrious people seem to not only engage in long-term planning, they seem to do it right, so that if they're more industrious, they put their plans into operation, then the plans actually work. But it's not correlated with IQ. So then I can't figure out, well, obviously the industrious person in some way is able to regulate their own behavior. You know, they're not procrastinating, for example. And you'd think that the ability to not procrastinate would be a cognitive feature, but it doesn't seem to be. And we have no idea what makes people industrious, and we can't figure it out. So it's this incredibly potent predictor. It's just about as powerful as IQ. And we have no idea what it is. So if you have a smart idea about that and you want to pursue it, like, feel free, because there's a big mystery there that no one's been able to crack, and we've been at it for a long time and have had almost no success. You know, we had people do things like, we'd give them sentences of N's, M's, and U's, sort of randomly distributed, and then we'd have them count the U's, you know, like a whole page of sentences. They're not sentences, they're just strings of letters. Count the U's. How useless, you know? You'd think that someone industrious would do that better. It's like, they don't. That's an IQ test. The people who can count the U's faster have higher IQs. Almost everything that you would do where it has to do with manipulation of abstractions of any sort, even something that basic, seems to be fundamentally associated with.
Find a way to fit it into, yeah. So you're constantly trying to achieve a way to work, to think, and to act smarter. So it's that specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely.
With IQ. People with higher IQs have slightly bigger heads if you control for body size. They have slightly bigger brains if you control for body size. The axons on their neurons are a bit thicker, so the electrical messages seem to travel a little bit more efficiently. They are slightly faster in simple reflex tests, so it goes right down to the level of, because they're simple reflex, light goes on, push a button. There's not many neurons mediating that response, you know, chains of neurons. There's only a few neurons communicating so that you can do that. But even at that relatively simple processing level, IQ is associated with speed. So there's a physiological component. You're less likely to develop Alzheimer's disease if you have a high IQ. And maybe that's because your brain is just more robust, you know, so you could sustain damage, say, of up to 50% of your brain, and you wouldn't even show it if you have a sufficiently high IQ. Whereas if you're on the bottom end of the IQ distribution, you seem to be much more susceptible to physiological damage. Nutrition is a big predictor of IQ variation. So, and a lot of that's been hammered out of modern societies, you know. So 150 years ago, people's IQ was pretty tightly associated with their nutritional status. But now, you know, there are very few people in North America who don't have enough to eat, even though there's some variation in quality of diet.
So he was saying 150 years ago, your IQ could be directly related to your nutritional status. But now he's saying, in the world that we live in now, most people do have somehow a way or other that access to the nutritions that they require. So it's no longer the same link. Is that what he's saying?
And that's flattened out a lot of the cultural variability in intelligence.
So that was our man Jordan B Peterson telling us about the results, the features of a person with a high IQ. Well, I need to go and take an IQ intelligence quotient test very, very shortly, I think, because I haven't done one for a very long time. You know, they're actually quite good. They're a good thing to go through to actually work out your IQ. And, I remember seeing something about the presidents of years gone by all the way up to is it DJ? Donald J. Trump? And looking at the various differences in the IQ of the various presidents. That was actually quite interesting to see. But yeah, so that was our man, JBP, Jordan B. Peterson, letting us into the really incredible world of the IQ and, the correlations between, what makes up the IQ and how that then relates to, and as he was saying, things in our life like our longevity, and also even as far as maybe preventing us from getting things like Alzheimer's and stuff. So that's a really interesting thing to follow. I'd like to hear a bit more of that. That was short and sweet, but I'd like to hear a little bit more about the IQ and how they test for IQ and what the actual results of the IQ test mean and the different categories. I remember it from I think I was 13 or 14. I used to sit in the library. I used to sit in the reference section of the library, looking at all manner of things in the encyclopedia, the reference manuals, etc., looking at things like IQ. And if I remember rightly, what were the categories? They were borderline, normal, bright, superior. Guys, if I've missed anything out, let me know down here in the comment section. And I can't remember what the bands were as well. So if you can let me know as well down here in the comment section, it'd be really, really good, really interesting. I mean, the whole point around the IQ is you measure it against your peers. It would be really good just to go into it in a little bit more depth and just to find out what it's all about, guys. I'm not at Mensa level. No way, no how. I wish I was, but I'm not. But guys, it'd be interesting to find out what our own individual IQs are, whatever. And if you do know, let me know down here in the comments section. It'd be interesting to read. Guys, have a great day, great evening. Look after yourselves, look after each other, and make certain you sign up here, or is it here? I'm not sure. Anyway, guys, you'll let me know. Just subscribe, guys. Subscribe here to the Urb'n Barz channel and make certain you come back to the next Urb'n Barz reaction, guys.